Welcome, or should I say bonjour. Today we're going to take you on a week-long trip to Paris. I'm going to tell you what to see and do, where to stay, and most importantly probably, where to eat. First, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was a mathematics professor for 32 years. My name is Steve Solosky, and during my time off as being a mathematics professor, I used to travel to Paris a lot. And being a professor, I used to take lots of notes on everything. And I compile those notes and take detailed notes of, like I said, what to see and do, where to stay, and what to eat. And then civic organizations and libraries, like the Allen Public Library, used to ask me to give presentations. So I would give out those notes. And people enjoyed those notes so much they said, you should write a book on traveling to Paris. And I did. I wrote The Traveling Professor's Guide to Paris. And since I wrote the book, I've had hundreds of inquiries from people from me to take them to Paris. So in the last 20 years, I've done about 75 trips to Paris, taking hundreds of people there. So what I'm going to do today is tell you what we do on a week-long trip to Paris. So first thing I'm going to start with is, what do I bring to Paris when I go? One of the things I bring is a map and a Paris bus map. Lots of people take the metro when they go to Paris. We like to take the bus because the bus, you can see where you're going, get some perspective of where you are instead of taking the metro. Now, the metro might be a little bit faster, but we enjoy taking the bus better. So I always take this Paris bus book with me that has a map, shows me where to get everywhere, and it's really handy. The other thing I bring to Paris is a book on where to eat. That's really important too. And this is a great book that you can get at your library or anywhere else, and you can find out the best places to eat in Paris. The other thing I bring is a good guidebook like this one, and that's going to help you plan your trip to Paris. Also, a set of binoculars, a small pair like this is good. And the other thing, and one of the best tips I can give you in traveling to Paris, is to get a transportation pass. Instead of paying to use the bus, the metro, or the tram each and every time that you go, if you buy a one-time transportation pass that's good for a week, it's about 26 euros. You have unlimited use of the transportation system. And the other thing, which we're going to show you a picture of on your screen, is what's called a Paris Museum Pass. That's a great tip. Because what it does, it gives you VIP admission into almost every single attraction in Paris. But the best part about it is you don't have to wait online. If you have the Paris Museum Pass, you have a special line to get you into various attractions, and it's a real help in planning your trip. So let's talk about a week in Paris. So as you know, flights to Europe are usually overnight flights. We like to arrive in Paris on a Sunday. And when we get there on Sunday, what we usually do is we get to our hotel, we check in, we relax a little bit. We like to take a little nap because it's been a long, strenuous flight overnight. We might pick up things like our Paris Museum Pass and our Navigo Découvert transportation pass that day. And you can pick that up at the tourist information booth at the airport if you want. And then we go out to dinner, and then we do the best thing you can do on your first day in Paris is we take a Seine River cruise right down the center of Paris, because splitting Paris in two is the Seine River with the Ile de la Cité right in the middle. And when you take a evening river cruise, it's just spectacular. You'll see all the great sights of Paris, including the Eiffel Tower lit up at night. So it's a really relaxing, great first day in Paris. Then you have to be a little careful of what's open and what's closed in Paris, and most of the museums and attractions are closed on Monday or Tuesday, so you have to be very careful in planning that too. So on our second day in Paris, what we'll do is we'll go over to the center of Paris, which is called Ile de la Cité, and there are a couple of great attractions there. There's a chapel called Sainte-Chapelle, and that was built in the 1200s to house the crown of thorns that Jesus wore when he was crucified. And it has beautiful stained glass windows. Next door to that is what's called the Conciergerie, which is served many different purposes, and one of them was as a prison where Marie Antoinette was held before she lost her head. And you may have seen the conciergerie depicted in movies like The Three Musketeers. It really gives you a sense of old medieval Paris, and we always love going there. And the other thing we do on our first day in Paris is we like to walk over. It's a short walk to Notre Dame. Now, as you know, they had a very serious fire a few years ago, but you can still walk around Notre Dame and get that real feel of Paris. So that will take you about half a day on your first day in Paris. And what we do is, with our Paris bus book, we'll either take the bus or we'll walk through Tuileries Gardens. And Tuileries Gardens is like the central park of Paris. And you'll see Parisians, especially in the morning, hanging out there and walking around and having lunch and enjoying the large park. But we'll go to a museum that not many people know about, or it's not one of the considered to be one of the most popular museums in Paris, but it's called the Orangery. And what the Orangery holds is the water lilies painted by Monet. And you're really going to enjoy that museum. And you'll notice that when you get there, there's probably going to be a line that's a mile long. But if you have your Paris Museum Pass, you can get on a special line and you'll be the first to go in with no waiting at all. And so that's what you want to do with that Paris Museum Pass. That's probably one of the first times you'll get to use it. And then that takes pretty much a full first day in Paris. So that night, we usually relax. We'll go out to dinner, and Paris does not lack in places to have dinner. I'm sure you'll find quite a few around your hotel. The next day, what we'll do is we'll get up early in the morning and we'll go over to Luxembourg Gardens. And Luxembourg Gardens is another very large park in Paris, and they'll have some beautiful sites like the Medici Pond. They'll have a reproduction of the Statue of Liberty. And believe it or not, there are 5 reproductions of the Statue of Liberty in Paris. And from there, we'll hop on the bus. We'll do something like go over to the Rodin Museum. Now, you've heard of Rodin, the famous sculptor. We'll go to his museum, which consists of a house and gardens. You'll see the famous sculpture of the Thinker. And inside the house, there's many works of art too. There's a perfect place to have lunch in the back of the Rodin Museum in the gardens there. We always make sure that we have lunch there. It's a great spot. And a short walk over from there is the Napoleon's tomb, where the famous emperor is buried. And that'll take some time, and people are quite impressed with seeing that. If you have time, there is a war museum attached to the site of Napoleon's tomb, but that takes quite a bit of time to see. And that I would only do if you're interested in that particular subject. And from there, we can hop on the bus. We can go over to the Arc de Triomphe. And why I like going to the Arc de Triomphe is that when you walk up the steps, and it's about 300 or so, you get the best view of Paris and the Champs-Élysées. So that's another good thing to do on a Tuesday in Paris. And to finish off the day, you might want to walk down the Champs-Élysées, which is the 5th Avenue of Paris. It doesn't look too much like old Paris, but people really enjoy doing that. And that's a good thing to do on a Tuesday in Paris. Now, Wednesday is a little bit different. Don't forget, all the museums and attractions are wide open, so things are going to be a little bit less crowded. And depending on what your preferences are, I have a few options for you on a Wednesday in Paris. The first thing you could do is you could go to an area called the Marais. And that's an old Jewish area of Paris. There's lots to see and do there. There's the Place de Vosges, which again is one of those old Parisian squares. There's the Picasso Museum, if you like that kind of art. That's been recently renovated, and there's lots to see about Picasso there. And then there's a Carnavalet, which is the Museum of the History of Paris. Lots of people enjoy that. If that's not something what you want to do on a Wednesday, another good option is to take the trip out to Versailles. Again, you can take your transportation pass. It's a 40-minute trip out to Versailles. You can get out at the train station, take the 15-minute walk to the chateau. Now, I have to warn you, on that day, you want to have good walking shoes. It's a full day outside and inside touring Versailles. Of course, there's the chateau. Then what you want to do is you want to look at the gardens. Then you want to go out back to the Petit Trianon where Marie Antoinette lived. And that's a full day. You're really going to enjoy that. If you do happen to get back a little bit early, the train that goes from Versailles back to Paris does stop near the Eiffel Tower, and that would be a good day for you to visit the Eiffel Tower. I do have to tell you about the only attraction not included on the Paris Museum Pass is the Eiffel Tower, and I recommend that you make reservations before you do go to the Eiffel Tower because it's quite crowded. And a third option, and we do this a lot on our trips, we like to take the 45-minute train ride out to Giverny, which is the home of Monet. And that's where Monet painted his most famous paintings, including the water lilies. And I describe it as being in a painting instead of looking at a painting. And people really enjoy that. And it's not too much of an effort to get out there. But again, that's going to be a full day. So there are 3 great options for a Wednesday in Paris. Now, on Thursday, our 5th day in Paris, we like to go up to Montmartre and Sacré-Cœur, which is an old part of Paris. And again, we'll hop on the bus. And the first place we like to start is the cemetery at Montmartre. Why would anyone want to go to cemetery? There's plenty of history there. And in Paris, the tombstones or the memorials are usually ornate sculptures. And as I said, there's lots of history there. And you'll see the tombs of people like the woman who invented the can-can. You'll see Alphonse Sax, who invented the saxophone. And another famous tomb there is the one of Degas, the famous painter. And then from there, you can just walk right outside the cemetery and you'll go to the famous Moulin Rouge. And you'll see the giant windmill and the famous theater there that everyone enjoys seeing. We like to take a little bit of walk. We'll do things like go to the Café des Two Moulins, which if you watch the famous movie Amélie, that's where the cafe that Amélie worked at in the movie. And then finally, we make it up to the Place de Terre. And you've seen the Place de Terre. That's where you can have your portrait sketched out by one of the hundreds of artists that you'll see up there. It's a lot of fun. You'll really enjoy that. And again, that will take a full day. Now, we haven't gone to the great museums of Paris yet, and we're going to leave that for the 6th day. And in the morning, we go over to the Musée d'Orsay. And you'll see the greatest collection of Impressionist painters there. And it's located in an old train station that they've converted to a museum, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful museum. And as you go on the top floor, you'll see paintings, an unbelievable number of great paintings by painters like Monet, Manet, Degas, Renoir, Cézanne, Sisley, Van Gogh, John Singer Sargent, and Whistler. And it just goes on and on and on. And the best part for me to going to the Orsay is they have a great restaurant for lunch that we always go to. It's inexpensive, it's beautiful, and we just love the food there. It's just a perfect way to end the day at the Orsay. And then what we'll do is we'll take a little bit of a break, and this is a big tip for you, is we'll go to the Louvre Museum in the evening. It's open on Friday evenings. So why go on Friday evening? Because it's less crowded. All the tours are out of there. It's about half as crowded as any other time of the week. And we enjoy going there on Friday evenings. And one of the issues that you have to consider when going to the Louvre is that it's a massive museum. It's probably one of the largest museums in the world. And if you go there without any planning, you're going to be lost. So we suggest that when you get to the Louvre Museum is to pick up a map and map out the things that you want to see. Of course, you're going to want to see Venus de Milo. You want to see the Mona Lisa. You can't go to Paris without seeing the Mona Lisa. Other good things that people like to see is they like to see a painting called The Crowning of Napoleon, which takes you inside of Notre Dame. It's going to show you something that unfortunately you can't see in Paris these days because we can't get into Notre Dame, but the painting The Crowning of Napoleon takes you inside Notre Dame. And then you can see the crown jewels of France. It's a full day again in Paris and even into the evening. So that's another great thing to do. Now, Saturday is a special day in Paris. It's bustling with shoppers, with people going out to lunch, and it's a great day to do those types of things that you miss during the week. We call it a Paris ramble. So what we like to do on Saturdays is we like to do something like visit a market in Paris. I mean, you have to go to Paris and visit a market. They're all over the place. There are food markets, there are clothing markets, there are antique markets. There are all sorts of markets all over Paris, and you might want to take some time to do that. So the other things that you might want to do is you might want to go to other museums like the Crowning Museum. That's something that you don't hear a lot about, but you want to go to. There are other things like the Pantheon that you may want to visit. You might just want to go shopping. You might want to go to a bookstore. There's a lot of things that you might want to do on a Saturday. So we always like to keep a day open for you to do what you want to do in Paris. I also want to talk a little bit about where you want to stay in Paris. And one place that you want to stay is at the Grand Balcons Hotel. That's located in the 5th arrondissement, which is one of my favorite places to stay because it's centrally located, it's near good transportation options, and it's clean, quiet, and a good place to stay. That's a 2-star hotel. One of my favorite 3-star recommendations in the same area is called the Hotel de Fleury. I've stayed there many times and we really enjoy it. And if you want something a little bit more special, there are, of course, lots of other hotels in Paris. The other one that we've stayed at is the Hilton Hotel near the Opera House in Paris. That's a good choice too. And let me let you in on a little bit about my favorite places to eat. I don't like to eat at expensive restaurants, and you can spend $1,000 a night if you want to eat in Paris, but I like to go to those more authentic places. And some of my favorites are what they call bouillons, which are old-time Paris restaurants. They have the waiters dressed in old-time outfits, and the few that I can name are Chartier, is one that's been there for over 100 years. And there's another one called Polydor, which is located in the 5th arrondissement. And you may have seen that one depicted in the movie Midnight in Paris. That's how authentic it looks. We always like to go for a drink at Harry's Bar. There's nothing wrong with that. That's near the opera. And I have a couple of other really special restaurants that I like. One is called Le Petit Prince, and the other one is called La Coupe Chou. But there are many, many different choices of restaurants in Paris. And again, if you pick up a good guidebook like the one I showed you before, you can find one of those. So that's a week in Paris. And I hope I gave you a lot of good information. I condensed a lot of information into a very short presentation. I do have a website where I do a lot of blogging on Paris on special restaurants, things to do, things to see, places to stay. And if you want to look at that, you can. And the website is www.travelingprofessor.com. Okay, that's it. Au revoir, and we'll see you in Paris.